Jon Peterson. Whether you play tabletop RPGs or computer RPGs or both, your hobby started with Dungeons and Dragons. You go back to D&D when you want to find out where the idea of gaining experience points to go up in level came from, or what were the first spells that dealt hit points of damage. And to get these ideas in their original form, you need to go back to original Dungeons and Dragons. Years before there was a player's handbook or a dungeon master's guide, D&D came in boxes with 3 booklets inside of them. Between 1974 and 1976, about 6 of these printings came out. In some respects, they're easy to tell apart. Early ones came in a brown box and later ones in a white box. But today, we're going to get into the real particulars of how you tell which printing of D&D you're looking at and what some of the key differences are in the text. To help with that, I'm going to visit with a friend of mine who has a truly remarkable collection of early D&D box sets. His name is Bill Meinhardt, and we rightly call his collection the Museum of Fantasy Role-Playing Games. There's really no better place to look at the early editions of Dungeons and Dragons than here, in front of the wall of fantasy role-playing, the Museum of Fantasy Role-Playing Games here at Bill Meinhardt's house. And we're going to talk today a bit about what the earliest printings of D&D looked like. And this, right in front of us, is our first example, and it's a beauty. I mean, this, if there's any piece that belongs in a museum that is of the first printing of D&D, it just has to be this. So, Bill, tell us a bit about this guy.
Well, this was my brother-in-law's copy, and he picked it up in 1974. He was a war gamer back from the 60s. He was at Gen Con 2 and all the Gen Cons going forward. And he occasionally played D&D with Gary, but his thing was war games and miniatures, so he didn't play D&D very much. So he purchased this set, and it got put away for posterity almost immediately and untouched since that time. And I became the caretaker of it about 20 years ago. And I feel very fortunate to have this in my collection.
And I feel very fortunate just to be able to see it, in the sense of this is the perfect thing to use to be able to explain what differentiated the original printings of D&D from subsequent ones. So let's get into that a bit. There's both facts about the box, then facts about the booklets. So let's start with the box.
Well, you can see the horizontal lines on the box. And in the booklets, the Men in Magic and the other books as well, and the second print and third print will say second print and third print right here on the inside cover. If it doesn't say second print or third print and it has the mounted rider, then it is in fact a first print book.
So let's take a look at this second print box you've got there just to show the difference of the grain. If you just put them alongside each other, they look pretty much the same, except you'll see that the grain goes one way on the first print, horizontally, and it goes vertically on the second. Now, this we've got to be careful about, though, because it seems like there are second prints as well that actually have a horizontal grain to them. And when we get to the third print, there's a lot of confusion about that as well. So we have yet to see, I think, a first print that doesn't have horizontal grain on it. But it's very difficult to distinguish these things kind of by the grain and sticker positions alone.
They were being cobbled together by the Gygax family in their basement. And some have stickers, some don't have stickers. They did what they could. They got them out the door to sell them because it became a growing concern and everybody was involved, but it was an imprecise process.
So there were about 1,000 of these first printings made, and then of the second, about 1,000 of those, we think. By the time we get to the third, which is this box here, we think they made about 2,000 of these. Now, interestingly, from the sticker alone, you can tell what the difference is.
Because of the extra white area below the price tag. And then on the side, you can see the extra length of the sticker on the third print.
Yeah. Although this has the same horizontal grain as the first print does, which is weird. I have a third that is vertical, that has this same big sticker on it, but has the vertical wood grain. Again, it just seems to be random.
The way to really tell is the listing on the books.
That's right. Only really the booklets themselves will tell you. But of course, you never know when you get a box with some books in it if this was mixed up, at a gaming table in 1976, or if this was mixed up when they were originally made.
Or if they were grabbing them from the stacks and they grabbed this box as opposed to that box, right. And they would grab the top booklet from each of the stacks to get you 3 books when they'd be sent out the door.
That's right. And there was no shrink wrap or anything, so there's no way to really know for sure whether it was as it was originally manufactured. So let's talk a bit about the sheets, too, that went along with this, the fourth element here.
These were tables that were inside the books. There are, in fact, a complete set is 19 pages with material on them, so not including any blank sheets of paper like that. So there are 19 actual pages that have text on them, and they were quick reference sheets. Later on, here in the third print, this is an example of the correction sheet that they added in, the errata to the rules. And in the second and third prints, it's a freestanding sheet like this. Then starting in later, the fourth print specifically, it's actually attached and part of the cover of the booklet. Then after that point, there's not a correction sheet in the sets at all.
Right.
So they were around for the second, third, and fourth prints of the rules.
And I've seen some of these correction sheets, unlike that one, that have a little markup on them that show the old Sage Street address, which is Don Kay's address in Lake Geneva, crossed out, and the P.O. box for TSR, the company, which had just really started then, appears on it instead.
Which goes to show you in the early printings how much it was a family enterprise there. So with the 1000, 1000, and 2000 printings, respectively, of the first, second, and third editions, here we have the fourth printing of the game, and they put it into a professional box, new artwork on the cover.
No more stickers.
No more stickers. And the cover of Men in Magic is changed here to a fighter who's not horseback. Right. He's standing on the ground there. So you can tell the difference between the first, second, and third prints and the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh prints here because of the cover of Men in Magic.
We should probably say why that is, too. So, in case people don't know, this was actually a swipe from a Marvel Comics panel from Doctor Strange, and at least the lore is that that's the reason that it was backed out eventually, is because they were concerned for intellectual property reasons about it.
So here, starting with the fourth print, they were still making reference to Tolkien creatures inside it, harkening back to chainmail. They have orcs and ents and balrogs inside the editions, but then they got a cease and desist order from Saul's Ants, and they had to change that and change, for instance, Hobbit to Halfling, starting with the sixth print in 1976. So here on page 8 of the Men in Magic book, from a sixth print or a seventh print, it will say Halfling instead of Hobbit. It's a quick, easy way to tell. And of course, the sixth and seventh prints say Original Collector Edition on them. And that was because the Holmes Blue Box Dungeons & Dragons set had come out, and they wanted to be phasing out these boxes, but they were still selling so many that they distinguished it by putting Original Collector's Edition on it so that people wouldn't be confused about which edition of Dungeons & Dragons they were getting.
But to be clear, if you're a collector, this was by far the most common of these. And you call it the collector's edition, but really it's the brown boxes that were showing at the beginning of this that are the true collectibles of the era.
That's right. But these hung on for a few years because they were just selling so many of them, because people in the Midwest were familiar with the brown boxes, but people from other parts of the country and overseas were just hearing about Dungeons & Dragons for the first time, and they wanted to get the little brown books. So they still kept selling these as long as they could.
Thanks for watching today, and you can find out more about the history of role-playing games on my Playing at the World blog, and stay tuned for more editions that will cover other topics in the history of role-playing games.